think was missing when I was hearing your pitch is your differentiation part. Sorry, when you talk about the computer, it was very at the end. So you know, when you shared figures, because the computer arrived at the end, I was not convinced by the figures, you know, at all. So that's why maybe it could be a good thing to think about the chronology of the slide. Okay, it's just a question.
Perfect. Great. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you for that. Next picture, we're going to have Joseph. We're going to do guy, girl, just to mix it up a little bit. So Joseph, you can get ready to prepare your screen. And also just everyone else, just encourage you guys also to share your emails. I just got added to the badgers today. And so know that all the directors are willing and able to read your feedback newsletters. So if we're not on there, please do add us. Great, you can start when you're ready and I'll start the clock.
Okay. All right, good evening all. My name is Joseph Bagal. I'll be talking about Badgers this evening. Our company Badgers is helping customers in the oil and gas industry to revitalize their surplus inventory in a circular economy. Oil and gas projects are usually performed in remote areas, and as such, they require surplus equipment. The challenge is that each well requires 20% of surplus equipment, and this amounts to $12 billion of unused equipment per year for the entire industry. And eventually, 85% of these equipment are scrapped without ever being used. The solution that we're proposing is an e-commerce platform that will assist, on one side, sellers to monetize their surplus equipment, and buyers on the other side to acquire unused equipment. The platform provides great monetary benefits for both the sellers and the buyers, and it also helps in preserving the planet by making its part to meet the Sustainable Development Goals. And this is actually aligned with the big players in the industry. The beauty is that the energies of the future will also be installed in remote areas, and as such, they would require excess equipment. This provides an avenue for future diversification. This is an example of product listing on our platform, and we have already great traction. We have been able to secure 3 letters of intent for a pipeline value of $5 million, and we have an ongoing transaction of $1.2 million. And we're hoping for our first year of activity to generate $7 million of transaction. Our business model considers a sales commission and a listing fee. And we're looking at addressing a market of $2 billion that is coming mainly from the big 5. And with a 5% market share, we shall generate $20 million annual revenue in a couple of years. There are already a few players that are selling equipment. However, Badgers is the only company that is focused on unused equipment and also specialize in the oil and gas. As we're going to market, we're considering a pilot phase in Nigeria, where we have a good mix of sellers and buyers that are meeting our customers' archetype. Our founding team has collectively 40 years of experience in the industry with an extensive network that allows leading to success this project. Thank you for your attention.
Great. 6 seconds left over. That's great. Great job.
Thank you.
Great. You guys are getting good. Everyone's getting good at the time. It's excellent. Great. So judges, please be prepared to note Joseph Bagal, and you can start asking questions.
Hi, Joseph. So you explained really well the market size and the market potential, and it looks like an amazing project. It's very interesting, and also the ecological impact. I have a question. if it's a lot of operational tools, will the market be fluid? As in, are you sure that what's being sold is going to be needed? Are those PCs like very specialized, or are those PCs kind of used by everyone? You see what I mean? Like, it's not a TV, it's like a little part of a machine that makes a very special thing. So
I see what you mean, Melanie.
my point is, are you not being able to sell? Are you not going to sell only 20% of the product listed, and then it's going to be maybe a break on your development? Or are you going to specialize in a well identified of a set of tools and products?
Well, the way we tend to segment the market in the oil and gas is that we have land activities that are extremely standard across all geographies, offshore activities that are more or less standard as well. And when we get into deep water, that's the only time when we have very specialized equipment that may never be reused from one project to another one. So within the land and the offshore activity, we're already able to move a lot of equipment. And what we're seeing at this stage is that the deep water equipment are over-specified, but coming back at a discount of 50%, they are still interesting for customers that would like to install them for their offshore projects. So we can address it all.
And is there any safety issue because you're gonna sell like secondhand? Are you gonna be the person who approves that this tool is safe to use, or is it like buyer beware?
So at this stage, it's a buyer beware, and what we're offering the buyers is that whenever they get the equipment, they inspect it, and they can return it if it's not in the condition they are hoping. For our future development, we will be actually inspecting the equipment, and that will come at a cost for the buyer.
Okay. Thanks.
You're welcome.
So I thank you for your presentation, Joseph. I also already asked several questions last time, and I have another question. You mentioned your two, I will say, differential criteria, which are the fact that you are selling new equipment, and the other one is
specialization in oil and gas.
Exactly, the specialization in oil and gas. I can understand that selling new equipment might be really competitive criteria, but for the other one, so highly specialized, I'm asking, is it really a competitive criteria, or are you limiting your market?
Okay, I see where you go with the limiting market. Where it becomes an advantage for us to specialize that much in oil and gas is, for instance, when we're looking at the deep water equipment that are over-specified, we understand why it's going to be difficult to resell them to other people. But we also know the parameters that allow us to sell that for an offshore project, and at which price it should be for that offshore project to be attractive for that offshore project. So that's where we're bringing our 20-year expertise into the industry to be able to do that. We will not be able to do the same thing into mining or some of the other industry. That's why diversification into all these other industries will be coming at a later time into our development.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Lynn, if you have any questions, if not, we'll.
Yes.
Dominique.
Thank you, Joseph, for your presentation. So I understand that your main client will be big companies, oil and gas, thanks, I think, to your experience, your large experience, 20 or 30 years in the sector. So it looks like a strong advantage for you to work with them. But at the same time, if you will work with these big companies and you will make most of your turnover with them, maybe will be dependent on them too. So is there a way that you can ventilate your sales with other customer segment as well, or is it mainly this target that you have in mind for the moment?
That's an excellent question. So on our market, we have two sides. We have the seller side and we have the buyer side. On the seller side, we have the big companies. This is what is fitting our customer archetypes. And as of today, 100% of these companies to which we have talked need us. They will actually be dependent on us. So on that side, we're quite confident. Now, on the other side, we have the buyers that are smaller companies that may be a little bit more constrained financially or have different type of overheads. So these companies are the companies to which we're trying to be attractive today to make the project successful. So we need a little bit more buyers than sellers. So with the 5 sellers globally that we have, that will be enough to take us through for a long run. And on the buyer side, what we're seeing today is that we need at least 5 buyers for one seller.
Okay, so your project is a two-sided platform with sellers on the one side and buyers on the other side.
That's
and
correct.
the main challenge for you is more on the I mean, you need sellers to have this product, but for the main challenge is more about the buyers to be able to afford the product. Okay, I get it.
Yeah, exactly. And easy to get any sellers. Every time I pick up my phone, I get a list of equipment that is available for sale. Then I need to do the work, the marketing work to find the right buyer for this.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. Sorry, I'm letting the questions go a little over time because I know that you all are going to need these review points for next week. So thank you so much for those questions, mentors. Great. So Isis, you're next. Please be ready to share your screen. And once you're ready, you can start and I'll start the clock.
Okay. I'll share the screen now. Is it good? Okay, great. Hi, welcome Melanie, Dominique, and Amine. Can I count myself in for the clock? Okay, great. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Isis, presenting to you the Favorable Company, fashion's hottest engine to buy our way to a better future. I've gone from neuroscience research labs to Fashion Insider and UNESCO published author. I've engineered the solution through my experience. The Google Trends page states, explore what the world is searching. I want to see what the world is buying because we can. A few numbers, 500 million. Hashtag fashion is the 4th most popular hashtag monthly on Instagram. 10 million is the volume of monthly traffic captured by top-tier retailers online. 6 years of projected growth occurred in 8 months in 2020. E-commerce is booming through the crisis. And most importantly, 80% of sales come from 20% of styles, the best sellers. The rest results in the $210 billion inventory distortion, AKA overproduction. What you're looking at now is Favorable. Our product is a social shopping website gathering the best-selling styles and showing them in one feed. Customers want better products, brands want better sell-throughs. Favorable makes them meet and clears the inventory distortion. What you saw is an aggregator sending qualified traffic to retailers and increasing their sales, increasing satisfaction and saving time for customers, altogether yielding clean insights for better production. Smart retailers highlight their bestsellers. There are 15,000 SKUs or items qualified as bestsellers out of this sample of your favorite retailers. The cool part about this is that the system of logic, the organization of recommendation results, is patentable, such as this Google example for organizing search results. traction. My tech partner is too polite and asked me not to include these, but these are actual reactions from New Yorkers in our preliminary research, from Gen Z influencers to leading marketplace directors. This is the business model. Affiliation is a mature and established equation in e-commerce. It is the new face of advertising and commission in our digital age. It is exponential. As traffic grows, so does the revenue. The leading aggregator called List makes 5 million euros a month. E-commerce is booming. Our obtainable market size is $10 billion. It's the volume of affiliate revenue in online shopping in fashion. Interestingly, the recommendation engine market is growing by 34% a year, going from $1 to $7 billion in just 3 years since 2018. In the online shopping ecosystem, aggregators gather the widest offer, luxury retailers play the curator position, we connect customers to what they really want much faster. This is our go-to-market. Thank you, contact me.
Perfect. 3 seconds over, but you did great. Good job, Isis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Great, Isis. So the judges, please, Isis is going to be in your dashboard. So please feel free to ask questions.
Hi, hi, Isis.
Hi, Melanie.
When I look at the presentation, I always look at the 3 things: is what are you selling? Why is it relevant? And you answered that really well with the big need, with the inventory and the necessity to predict buyers' behavior. And then the third question is like, how are you going to pull this off? I believe there's a lot of, you talk about aggregator and algorithm, and in terms of your team, like how are you equipped in terms of, machine learning and tech people to build the whole, to help you deliver on your promise?
Of course, thank you. Thank you for your question, because that's exactly the challenge and the promise. And I've done a lot of research and development and have moved along and spoken to several experts in this field. So there's different aspects. So first we have onboarding of brands, because we need brand partnerships. So affiliate marketing is actually packaged generally with brands. So we can begin by onboarding brands through affiliate marketing packages that are established online through groups such as Publicis sur Rakuten. We can have direct brand partnerships where they supply their best-selling information or their top sellers as a weekly competition where they can enter this is what we sold this week. And then there's the implementation and the learning. So I've had an evaluation for 4 months with a top internal AI sales senior architect from Cognizant, for example, who did the entire implementation study for my solution. And so we went over, the database and the learning and the labeling. So I've actually done quite a bit of research on this, including also how patents work in e-commerce and the organization of this. Considering I have research science background, this is a space that I can navigate well in and have these types of conversations with the engineers. So we've covered a good bit of ground, and I have a tech CTO now who is working on getting our MVP started.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, Isis, thank you for your presentation. Your value proposition for your customer is clear, but I can't see really the value proposition that you are offering to the different brands?
Okay, thank you for your question, Amin. So for customers, it's clear they see what they're most likely to buy and to like quickly. So they're gaining time. That's radical. For the brands, there's two prongs. First, it's a dynamic edit of what's hot immediately. So in fashion, I've been selling collections for 10 years. And so the conversations only revolve around the bestsellers because they're the value drivers, and everybody knows that this relationship between 80 to 20, like 80% of the sales come from 20% of the styles is a fact. So there's two direct benefits. One is that 73% of brands are called value destroyers by McKinsey's latest report in fashion, with the business of fashion, because of the unsustainable production practices that brands generally practice in order to catch, grow brand awareness, which is kind of separate from what their actual value drivers are. So this is going to enable them to guide their production in a very distinct way towards sustainable production. So being a part of this engine and this recommendation engine is a gauge of participation in sustainability, which is the greatest stake of the industry today as the biggest polluter worldwide.
The problematic I see is that you are in some way putting them in competition, and maybe some of these brands will try to avoid that. So
well, there's a big of course the industry is lagging in the adoption of data analytics because they want to keep their secret sauce. They want to have this gut feeling way of being the best, but it's actually quite good products sell. That's why the brands exist. So it's in their benefit to put their best product forward because that's what they do well. So it's actually a better way to exist in the world as it's becoming.
thank you.
Perfect. Then I guess if Dominique has one last question, I know that Dominique said he worked in the retail industry. So if you have one final question, I'd love to give you the microphone.
Yeah. Hi, I thank you very much for sharing this. So your business model is an affiliation business model. So it's a brand that is paying you your revenue. Is it right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And so my question is about, in order that your solution is relevant, you need to have data. So maybe some data that the brand have and public data as well. So is this an issue for you to gather this data? And the other question is, you mentioned MVP. Have you defined the scope of this MVP, which is be very important for you, because this MVP will be, when you will meet investor, they will look at this MVP, look at the KPI that we have. So I guess it was to understand this further.
Yeah, thank you for your question, Dominique. So MVP and affiliation implementation. So I'll go with MVP first because I think it's quicker. MVP is, because it's affiliation and affiliation is what drives blogs, I could literally do this manually weekly. I could take the 3 bestsellers from the top brands and just, highlight them. So it's actually a scale of hypothesis on how to reach going from the promise of being a reliable space where you can find what's best to automating this as an engine. So with my tech partner, we are starting with just a basic version that will allow us to secure brand partnerships through my network of working as a fashion insider for 10 years, which has already begun through the program. So that's that for the MVP. And for affiliation, so what was the angle of your question? Because in affiliation, for example, there's the average remuneration, and it goes from 3 to 11%, depending on the different retailers. There are groups of affiliation, and then there are direct brands. Oh no, it was about the data, I think. Wait, sorry, could you just remind me the angle of your question, please?
The question is about one of your value proposition is about the relevant recommendation that you will make for the buyer, because he can save time, because you will propose them some relevant things about what he need today or tomorrow. And to do that, we need to gather some data, which is could be private or public data.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, how do you see this with your tech team to gather all this data, and maybe you do it by step as well.
Thank you very much for going over that with me again. So it evolves, right? It evolves as much as our GPD evolves, but the principle exists because it's an economic principle. So, for example, out of the top 100 retailers in terms of volume, you have about 50% of them that highlight their bestsellers, and this increases their sales. So it's in their interest to highlight it. So this is available in, for example, the sample that I presented. So originally, when I started this, the research for this idea, scraping was an open activity. So this was an easy point of entry, but now I think there's more method to building the actual partnerships. So we look forward to securing the partnerships in order to have reliable data exchange. And then for the learning, for example, Stitch Fix, I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's they became a unicorn during the pandemic. It was they do genetic recombination labeling on the factors of the styles, and so this is the space where you can kind of label all of the items that you have in order to learn from them, in order to surface the most pertinent results to gain time for people so that they can see what's best immediately.
Perfect. Sorry, I'm sorry. We're going super over time. I apologize. I let you go, but you're over at 10 minutes now, so I apologize. So we won't do, I've already emailed Isam and he knows, we won't do Isam tonight because, because we're over time now. So judges, if you could score Isam, if you could score Isis on the scale 0 to 5. And then what we'll do, we will take our 5-minute break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll have the judges do their presentations. And when we come back, we'll actually do our photo. So if everyone can come back on time, and hopefully Christian will be here. So why don't we give the judges some time to do that? You guys can log off, and why don't we say come back on at 7:32, give you an extra minute. So we'll all come back online at 7:32. We'll give the judges a minute to score their presentations now, take your 5-minute break, and then we'll start back. And if, I don't know, Melanie, if you want to go first, you can be prepared to go at 7:32, and then we'll have the other 2 judges go after that. Melanie, Dominique, and then, yes.
I have a question. My screen froze a couple of times during the question and answers. Did this happen to everyone or just me?
No, I think maybe just you.
Okay.
I'm afraid.
Okay. Hopefully, well, you'll tell me if
okay.
If you can't hear.
Great. Okay, so everyone else, you guys can take your cameras off, come back at 7:32, grab a snack, and we'll see you guys in 7 minutes. Perfect. All right, I'm restarting the recording. Isam, if you're there, we're gonna start. Or not. Okay. Well, he's not there. So we are going to, Christian, are you there? Can we take a picture of the group? Nope. No one's here tonight. Everyone's gone. All right. Why don't we go ahead and get started? We'll do the picture at the second half after we do the break. So Melanie, I turn it over to you.
Yeah. Let me share my screen. Hi, everybody. So can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Well, the first thing that comes to mind when we talk about product development is to talk to your users as soon as possible. There was a conference of Eric Ries who said that he had the idea of for the lean startup because he spent 6 months of his life working on features that nobody wanted, and he really put 6 months of his life in the garbage. So it's really important that you co-create your product. It doesn't mean that you give a Christmas wish list to your users, like, because people are going to ask you, crazy things. But you talk about their problems and you want them to test your solution. So that's very classic lean startup feedback loop. I think you all know it. The idea is to do an MVP, but people think sometimes that we do an MVP and then we do the final product. There might be a couple of MVPs and then you add features one by one. I know it's not always easy depending on the product you're working on, but the idea is that you add things little by little and you check their value. So at least you make sure you go in the right direction. And a small thing about pivoting. Pivoting is not doing a full 360. Pivoting is, staying grounded in what you're doing and changing the course of action. When Airbnb pivoted, they didn't stop everything and started selling cookies. They still stayed in their DNA. That's a very important a misconception sometimes. It's very important because if you do repeated iteration, it helps you find product market fit before you run out of cash. And the number one cause of startup failure is no market need. So you want to make sure there's a market need before you start spending a lot of money on pushing your product. And to answer the question, how much innovation you should put in your MVP, people like something that they can relate to, that they know already, but that's new. So you've got to balance the novelty and familiarity. That's how I call it. On social media, we hear a lot about that. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horse from Henry Ford. So how can we reconcile that view with the lean startup methodology? Does everyone has an idea? No one? Well, first of all, those are highly disruptive products. So if you're not like highly disruptive, that probably doesn't apply to you. And they were still addressing an existing market need. They were still addressing an existing problem, and they probably had their solution tested once they started shipping an early version of the product. So it's important that these quotes that we see a lot on social media don't give you the comfort to develop something for 6 months without asking anyone what they think. It's I know it's it's quite around, but it's anyways. Also, it's not about product, it's about product market fit. So if you're gonna sell worms, you want to sell them to Pumbaa, not Simba. So it's very important to take into account that you've got a market in front of your product, and make sure you address the right market, the right niche when you start, because it's not product, it's product market fit that you want. So basically product, there's a lot of things in the product. It can be the user experience on your website. Imagine you have a great product, but your proposition value on your website is impossible to understand because you don't have a marketing background and people don't get it. So you don't have a lot of conversion, you don't have a lot of engagement on your pages, and you don't understand why. You think it's because of your product, but it's because your value proposition is not clear or your user experience is terrible. So there are many things that that can be taken into account when you look at the product. And about the market, it's really important to define your users, to find your early adopters, who they are, where do they hang out, how you should talk to them, how can you get them. And if you have a well-defined niche, it's always easier to push a product in a niche than a product that is scattered among users who have no criteria in common. I heard that from Y Combinator conference. It's not from me. It's easier to serve a small number of users who love your product than a large number of users who like it a little, because, well, it's very expensive to convince people who like your product a little to buy it, to convert, especially when you're at a stage where, you know, everything is not perfect. So you need tolerance. So you need a kind of extra love to have tolerant people, to have tolerant users who you can push an MVP to. So I took Amelia's project as an example because we've been working together, and I thought it would be clearer to give example. So, for example, her product are at the same time coaching sessions for users, but a marketplace with client for coaches. Price is, you know, how much should I charge? Should I charge a commission, a flat fee? Place, it's very clear that it's an online marketplace. And promotion, what are my key messages? What is my value proposition? Again, the example of, you know, you've got a product on a website, the product is great, but the value proposition is crap and nobody understands what you do. Well, it's a problem. So you have to think about all the dimensions of the product. And what's interesting with Amelia's project is that she talks to a niche. So it's easier to target the users and to know them. So you take all of these components and you break them into a set of hypotheses to test. So, oh, hold on, I put a slide here. So basically you have a lot of information about how to make a persona online. Use those frameworks to try to define your ideal user, your ideal early adopter. And then you can talk to them differently. For example, with Amelia's project, maybe she's not going to talk the same way to someone who just finished art school, to someone who's like super established and is going to need like a super high level coach. They're not going to have the same budget. They're not going to respond to the same key message. So that's very important for you to also analyze whether you have the same group of user or different segment. You probably have different segment, but again, a lot of information online about it. Do it, think about it, it's very important. So you're gonna have the presentation. The slide is a bit not very easy to read, but yeah, basically you take all of the hypotheses and you test them. Like what do my user need? Do they really need that? Or am did I intuitively put my finger onto something, but it's not there yet, and I need to dig more into like what needs to be served and how? Do they really value what I'm offering? How much are they willing to pay? Is that the right place to sell my product? Is that the right price? Is that the right market? And you use different tools of metrics to test each hypothesis. Like, even if you're not selling, if you have a lot of people signing to your newsletter or signing to your social media, you know, it's a sign of interest. When you start to have users, if you have recurring user, that's a very good thing. When you sell your product, you want to put a feedback gathering process in place. I will show you later, there's a tool to test your value proposition. So that's very handy as well. Like, is my value proposition well defined, or am I completely wrong? But anyway, you'll get the slide and you can read all the examples. Yeah, about the price. Price is a complicated question to ask. Price is really something you need to test on behavior, like actual behavior, because people are always going to tell you, like, I want to pay less, or, oh, I'm sure, yeah, of course I'll pay for that, and then they don't. So price is something that you don't test with interview question. You test it on actual behavior. You have achieved product market fit when you have traction. It's quite simple. When you see your number of users growing, when you see recurring users, when you see interest. So traction shows that you start to have achieved product market fit. So I want to talk about the job to be done framework here, because that it's kind of makes you take a step back and think of your product in terms of job I'm doing for the customer, which can help you redefine your offer and, for example, realize that there are some needs you didn't think of, or you have sometimes a job to be done framework for each of your different customer segments. For example, for Amelia, it's very clear that she has one for the users and one for the coaches, and they're different. So the job is what the customer is trying to do, the struggle they have. Trigger is the catalyst that they're gonna convert, they're gonna solve it now with your product. Outcome is what does their life look like when they solve it. So outcome, you will use it more with marketing, and job, it's more about product design. For example, again, for Amelia's project, for the end users, for the artists who get coaching, they want visibility and recognition, they want a roadmap, they want a push to leave their comfort zone, they want validation, they want emotional support, and they want mental preparation. And of course, the trigger can be a competition, can be starting a family and needed to get their career back on track, could be finishing school. So those are things that, we said that people change behavior when they have a big life event. So that's something you can position yourself in, in marketing messages, and the outcome, it's quite self-explanatory. So I did it for the coaches, but you can have a look at it when you have the presentation. Basically, they want to do coaching. The coaches, they don't want to do running after clients, social media. They don't want to struggle with their back office and their payment management solution. They just want to do coaching, and you need to make their life easier for that. That's the job they need to be done. They used to hire, for example, maybe freelancers or trainers to do that, but now they can do this job with the solution offered. So when we worked on the job to be done framework, we identified the need for artists, for business mentors, in addition to coaching, in things such as, even accounting, personal branding, starting a dossier for a competition. And for the coaches, the job to be done is, a strong back office with everything put in place so you don't have to worry about it. That's why the job to be done enable you to widen your perspective sometimes, and offer things that you can offer that you didn't think of to begin with, probably. And also it helps you identify your competition, because you probably have one competition per job to be done. Like, is your competition a freelance? Is your competition on the company? Is your competition the person doing it on their own? And, it's not as nice, but it's cheaper for them. So you identify your competition for each job. With the job to be done, you can develop 4 sets of messages that you can use in your communications. So either you push, how horrible life is without my product, or you pull, how wonderful is life with my product. you can use what we call anxiety. So anxiety is really on booking when you see 4 people are looking at the same hotel as you. That's an anxiety message. So it's either what I call FOMO, but it's not really that. It's kind of that, and also social proof. You know, like you only have 24 hours remaining to get your 20% off your first session. So you push a promotion like that, or you show that other people are using the product and they are doing fantastically. Attachment is a very interesting one, is removing irrational attachment to status quo. It's really like showing, for example, a great example is for, I don't know, something like a Transavia or a plane company saying it takes you 1 hour to go to Madrid and it takes you 1 hour to go to work every day. Which one is it going to be? So you show how the status quo makes no sense. So it pushes people to go out of the status quo and use your product. So for example, we identified that people might not take a coaching station because of the price. And we said, like, really, what's the final price of having the career you want? So at the beginning of this presentation, I told you to speak to your users. So you speak to your users at the early development stage, and then once you start selling, you speak to your actual clients, and then you speak to your users to do the job to be done. So you speak to your users a lot. So you've got 2 ways to speak to users. You have surveys like type forms, or you've got like open interviews where you try to find people and talk to them. So that's why it's important to identify your potential customers. And when you're in the product development phase, you really want more interviews than surveys. So that's why I've put a couple of questions here. So the questions are not from me. Those are questions I found in my research over the years and that I really like. So this one is from customerdevlabs.com. There's a lot of resources on that website. First rule of validating your product: do not talk about your product. That's when you're trying to see if there's a real market need for your product. So you want to ask people, what's the hardest part about you know, being an artist? What's the hardest part about managing your career as an artist? Can you tell me about the last time that happened? Last time you had a problem, how did you deal with it? What, you know, why was it difficult? Like, what did you try to solve that problem? And in order to build a product, you can also get inspiration in things that worked, like features that worked in the past for your users, and also inspiration from what didn't work, and then you build something better. So that's also a great question: is what don't you love about the solution you have tried? The way you ask the question is gonna, you know, question and answer, it's garbage in, garbage out. So you want to pay attention to the way you ask the questions, because in order for the answers to be really actionable, you have to pay attention to the way you formulate your question. And you can actually test questions. Like, if you ask a question 5 times and they always give you crap answers, like answers that are not usable for you, then you just change the question. You do lean startup with your question. Another set of questions for existing users. Again, this is not from me. This is from a company called Growth Tribe. They have lots of amazing resources if you want to have a look at their website. How did you discover the brand? And how would you feel if you could not use it anymore? And the rule is that if a lot of people would be disappointed that they could not use your product anymore, then you have a good product market fit. If not, then you need to keep on working. What are the alternatives? Like, you know, what is your competition? What's the primary benefit of my brand? And sometimes you're surprised by the answer. And again, then the NPS, like, did you recommend my brand? You want to test the virality of your brand. And the reason why on the last question you asked to go through a typical day, it's because you're going to push your product at some point and you want to know where your users are. Like, do they use Instagram? Do they use Facebook? What groups do they follow? If you're going to use like influencers marketing, you want to know whether they like fashion or food or tech or, you know, whatever. But you want to know that because you can't afford to be like everywhere with your product. So that's a very interesting question to ask when also for content marketing. You know, you want to know where to write your content. And post-purchase feedback. It's very important to ask questions about your product post-purchase, like did the client like it? Did the client you fulfill the client's expectation? And then you can use a type form or a questionnaire and set up an email automation in order to encourage completion. Don't write too many questions. Maybe give a gift, like, you know, maybe if you're an expert in some domain, it's very easy for PAF because we give recipes and people love recipes. So you give an ebook with recipes. You give a discount, but you really want people to complete your survey, so you're gonna have to do some marketing. You can say, we're a young company, we really need your advice. I don't know, but make sure that people complete your survey and don't ask too many questions, like maybe max 10. It's better to do 5. Otherwise, nobody's gonna answer your survey and, you know, it's not gonna do you good. A couple of tools to either find users, find first clients. There's a tool called Prospecting. It's like a CRM for LinkedIn. And you can search by job description. And then you can connect all those people, send them a message on LinkedIn. You can either be like, hey, I saw that you were chanteur lyrique, you know, I want to give you a 10% discount for trying my new product. Or you can tell them, hey, I just launched a new product, I'm an entrepreneur. Would you take 2 minutes of your time to complete that short survey? And in exchange, I'm going to give you a free ebook about, you know, whatever interests those people. So come with an offer when you cold email people. It always works best, like with a little something and stay very concise. But this is a great tool to find users on LinkedIn. Then you can either use this link on Recruitment Geek. It helps you find people with several interests, which you can't do on the LinkedIn search function. But if you have just one interest to look for, like wine tasting, you can do it on LinkedIn directly. Then you copy and paste all the profile on Excel. You use something called Phantom Buster to extract the personal email, and then you can cold email people with, you know, your product or a link or whatever. But those are, or you can, you know, use that as well to ask people for their time, for 5 minutes of their time, because you're still working on product development. So this is useful at different stages of product development and launch. Another thing is Usability Hub. There are a few tests you can do with that. For example, there is a preference test. You show a different value proposition and you see which one people like best. You can either use their community of testers, or you can import your own community. But you know, if your proposition value is clear, it should be understood by everyone. So you also have the 5-second test, is to check the first page of the website, and you ask questions such as, what does this website sell, or why is it different? And then you check if your value proposition is clear. We had a very good scoring on PAF, so that's cool. But you make sure that, you know, your call to action is clear and that people know what they should do. You know, when people arrive on a website, they don't scroll down. Like, they're like, only, maybe it depends on the website, but only 70% of people, 70% of people are going to stay up. If you have a lot of people who scroll down, then it means you are interesting. And you check that with Hotjar, which is a heat map. So I showed you the click, but you've got another function that's scroll. You install the tracker with Google Tag Manager. It's very easy. And then you've got people going on your website, and after a few days, you have a look and you see where the users are, what they, what page they're looking at. You also have little surveys like the red thing you see on the right. You can ask people for feedback about your website and their experience on your website. You can, you've got a couple of, it's very easy to use. And then the last thing is another testing tool. So this is like quite complex. You got lots of tests if you want to run. So just have a look at what could be relevant for you. It's important, you've got lots of tools in the market to do those things. So it's important that you've got an objective on things you want to test, because otherwise you're going to spend a lot of time testing many things, but they're not going to really help you move forward. So what do I want to test? What for? How is it going to bring me money at the end of the day? How is it going to help me serve my market better? So you really want that kind of intention and objective when you ask questions and test things. You want to know why you do it, because otherwise you can play around and test many things and just, get nowhere. That's it. Sorry, I was trying to speak fast because I knew my presentation was long. I hope it was clear for everyone.
It was. Thank you so much, Melanie. It was very helpful. And as Melanie said, she's going to send us that presentation. We'll make sure we upload it right away to the Slack channel. Oh, you can't. Can you hear me?
No.
Sorry. So yeah, I was just saying that we're going to upload your presentation to the Slack group. So thank you so much. So great. Do you mind stopping to share your screen, Melanie?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Perfect. Great.
Is it gone? No, arrêtez. Voilà.
Perfect. Great. All right. So we're just going to do a quick photo. I don't want to lose anyone in case sometimes people drop off. We're going to do a quick photo. We do this every week, and we, as a thank you to our mentors, we post it on social media. So we're going to do a quick photo. If Maxime and Isam can turn your cameras on. If you can't in 5 seconds, you're out of the photo. Great. All right. They're gone. So they're no longer here. All right. Quick photo. Oh, Isam. Thank you. Perfect. All right.
Wait.
Oh, Maxime is coming.
Yes, yeah, I am. See me? I have to
No.
on the camera.
Great. Woo. All right. So we're going to take a quick photo on the count of 3. 1, 2. Stop moving, Isam. 3. Okay, one quick more. 1. Oops, hold up. Oops, wait, sorry. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Everyone's very handsome and beautiful. Thank you. Excellent. Thank you so much. So next presentation, we're going to go to Lynn. Lynn, if you don't mind sharing your, Dominique Lynn, sorry. Keep seeing your last name on the screen.
Right.
If you don't mind sharing your screen, Dominique.
Sure. I don't know if you can see my screen.
Yep, we can see it.
Okay. And thank you, Melanie, for your presentation. I've learned a lot of new things too, so it's very cool to benefit from other presentation as well. So how many minutes do I have, Vera?
You have 15 minutes.
Okay, so I'll try to go fast. Some points have already been discussed by Melanie, so I try to go fast on this point. So don't hesitate to stop me if you want to, if I have any question, okay? So the first question is maybe a very obvious question. What is a good product for you? What are the various characteristics of a good product? Maybe a good product is something, so there's a lot of definition possible, but very often we used to say that a good product is an intersection of something that is desirable, feasible, and viable. So it's, I think, maybe something obvious that's your product should be attractive. Melanie talked about the market fit. It should be viable economically. That means you need to have a customer that is willing to pay something for your product, and feasible because you have limited resources. So you need to test very quickly an MVP and to manage to have a product with a reasonable time frame. So this could be a definition of a good product. Then when we talk about the product management, what is a product management process? Is really all the steps, all the organization, all the processes that you can create for your startup, for your company, to go from one idea into this product that is at the intersection of the UX, tech, and business. We talk about desirability, feasibility, and viability. And when we think about product management, there is very often 5 pillars that are presented. The first one is about product discovery. So we'll deep dive on this later on, which is all the things that we need to do to gather more information about your product. Then you have product alignment. So all the things that you need to do in order to engage your sponsor, your customer, your co-founder too. Product delivery is only all the things that we need to do in order to very quickly manage to develop an MVP with shortcuts. And all of this, you will do that in an environment that is beneficial for innovation, and you will like to track the advancement about the way how you develop product. So we try to make a deep dive on the various topic, and the focus on my presentation is more to try to share some tips or some exercise that you can do in order to define your product. So first, product discovery. So before the presentation, we had some questions that you have shared in advance. So I'll try to cover this kind of question. So the question that was shared is how you quickly understand your product context in order to build the right strategy. Another is which are the technique that you use to speak with your target customer, and Melanie already shared some of them. So we'll try to deep on this. In product discovery, you can have 3 main areas. The first is to understand your customer, and for this you have a lot of possible exercise that you can do. So we'll just try to deep dive on some of that. Then you need to build a vision in short-term and long-term vision, and for that we'll try to share some cool exercise that you can be done very easily and quickly to have some results. And last one is when you maybe struggle to find the right value in which order, you can use some exercise in order to try to make it clear. So about understand all the context around you, or around your user, or around your competitors. So there are some few exercises that could be interesting. The first one, and this point has already been covered, so maybe I will not go into detail, but very often at the beginning of the project, so now it's not really the beginning because you already have some session, but there is a lot of uncertainty. And so I guess the aim is step by step to reduce this uncertainty, and by various steps and various tools that you can use. And one of them is also tool about the user research. And for user research, you have a different way to try to reach the user and to reduce your assumption. What is very important is to take maybe some seconds, some few minutes to really write down. And this has been write down the assumptions, and this has already been shared earlier. And to ask the right question. And when you have the right question, you will have the way to try this as hypothesis. So some example will be focus group. Focus group is maybe some of them already have used this kind of techniques. You have different type of segment that you will put in a room, and you try to have some confrontation. So you will gather some indirect things that can be said. For example, user tests and guerrilla tests. We already mentioned some of them, so I'm not going into detail. Another thing that is quite simple but very powerful is I don't know how to say in English, DILO, day in the life of. So when you follow a customer for during half a day or even a day to understand really all the action that he can do, it's very interesting when you need to understand the process, for example, the sales process, and you follow a salesman, for example, for a day as well, and it helps you to gather things that is not said, but you can just observe. Other tools that can be useful is a user journey. Maybe you already have done your persona. Maybe you have already done the existing as-is journey and the to-be journey. Still, this tool I think it could bring result quite very fast, because you focus on the main pain point on the customer journey, and you try to transform it into opportunities. Maybe some tips is when you do this exercise, really to quantify as much as possible every step by duration, frequency, and metrics that you can have. Another tips is when you think there is something, an area that can be improved, really try to understand the why. And the one technique to do that is the 5 why techniques. You know, when you ask why, then why. So very often the customer or the person that you will interview, he will stop at the second or third. But it's a very powerful technique sometimes to really understand the deep reason of a pain point, for example. And the last tool about to understand better the context. So we mentioned persona. Another tool you already maybe have heard about is a Maslow pyramid. We try to create 5 categories of needs and to prioritize that. So very often your product will answer 1 or 2 needs. So it's a way to try to prioritize to understand your solution answer a need and how it's prioritized, even if it's limited, because it's difficult to imagine that all our needs will be categorized, we put in a category of 5 in 5 elements, for example. If you are interested to go further, there is another tool that could be quite nice to use is Jung archetypes. So for Jung archetypes, it's kind of macro persona. So the persona is a fictive character that represents your target customer. A Jung archetype, you try to gather some persona together regarding their motivation. So you can have a deep dive of this if you are interested to go further on the persona part. So when you think that you are quite at ease about your understanding about your customer, your partner, and the ecosystem in general, an important text is to build the vision. To build the vision, maybe I can just take a few seconds to try to give my interpretation of what is the difference about mission, vision, strategy, and plan. The mission of your startup is the why you wake up every morning, why your co-founder will wake up every morning, and why all your employees will try to wake up and to work for your project. The vision here, the vision is more something that will support your mission. But if your company, your startup only have one product, so your product vision equal your mission. But if it has different product, it could all other product need to support the mission. The strategy is more how you need to reach the vision. It's like in chess, how you define in advance the way that you want to win against the person you're playing with. And your product plan is all the operational action that you will do in order to reach the strategy. So you see that the mission is something that is quite stable in time. Very often your mission will not change in a 2 or 3 years time, but your vision, your strategy, and your plan could be changed very often regarding the situation. Just a very fast example for Airbnb. The Airbnb mission that, so this is a quotation of what Airbnb have shared. So the Airbnb mission is to help to create a world, first, when you can belong anywhere, second, and where people can live in a place, third, instead of just traveling to it. And this was something that we shared like years ago. And the product vision, so they have a lot of product. When we mention product, would be some part of their website or this kind of thing. So one product vision could be to propose the smoothest booking experience for the coolest place on earth. The product strategy with the how you will do that. So for example, it could be some features about the booking experience, the attractive location of your place, or the new online experience, not only to stay, but experience with local people, for example, on the artists, for example. And the product plan will be to have your roadmap and the action in a time frame. So this is a tool that I found on the product strategy canvas. You will find it on the PPT after the session. It will help you to define all these things about the vision, your strategy, and the plan. So you can have a look on that if you are interested later. Another tool that I think is quite nice to use is La Une du Monde, but in English is the newspaper front page. So you just try to, so why you use this exercise is to try to better define your vision of your product. So the exercise is the following. So you just imagine that in 5 years' time, a well-known newspaper is writing something about your product or your project. And so you imagine what will be this newspaper front page. And some tips, if you do it in group, it really takes a few minutes. So everyone can have share, gather his thought, and then share in a brainstorming session, and try to use as much as possible smart approach about to define a concrete objective, to quantify the value of the product, for example. So it's fast to do, and it's a way to see your vision differently. Another exercise that you can apply is maybe some of you have heard about. Have some of you have heard about the Remember the Future exercise? Okay, no. So basically, it's a way to still build your vision and to imagine your roadmap. And this exercise is based on one assumption: is for very often the psychologists observe that it's easier to try to imagine that you are in 5 years' time from now, and then to see the steps that have helped you to go to the 5 year, that to start from the point of today, so now, and to imagine what are the very steps that you need to do in order to reach your goal. So you need to think about your ideal project in 5 years, and then for example, you reach your target, and then you think about the main steps in order to reach your goal. So this is the cue about this kind of exercise. And the last part about product discovery is about all you can do about how you can prioritize value. For that, I guess you have heard about a prioritization matrix, or you try to prioritize by value and complexity. And so you want to be somewhere there. So your product should bring a maximum value and a low complexity. So more something like here. So maybe a tips about this exercise is really to only think about 3 levels of evaluation to make it easy. Because you try to make 5 or 6, it's not easy to say, okay, the value of this feature of this project or this product is low or high, for example. Then we imagine that we have done all the product discovery. You understand your customer. You build the vision. You prioritize your various feature of the product. Now you need alignment with your co-founder, alignment with your stakeholder, alignment with the investor. And for that, the question is, how do you develop a product roadmap for your solution? And what this, I think, was one of the questions that was shared before. So why is a product roadmap important? Because it will help you to share visibility with your customer prospects on what you want to release and when. There's a lot of tools that will help you to do this kind of roadmap. You can use the easy one like Trello, PowerPoint. These are some roadmap done on PowerPoint, or other dedicated tool for the product management, for example, Product Board, or Monday.com, or if you're a bit techie, some of you already know about Jira too. So the tips is to have one tool and to be able to communicate frequently with your sponsor, your team, your customer, in order to be aligned about what need to be developed in which time frame. Another tips is maybe to very often we do maybe let's say you do a 2 years or 1 year roadmap. It's good maybe to have a long-term view, but to have another roadmap which is in 2 months time or 1 month's time. So have you to struggle to navigate between long-term target and short-term target. So now after that, if we imagine that you build alignment and you build a strong roadmap on your product, you want to make your product feasible and to go to something concrete. So this is a question about what is the specification, how do you create one? Another question that was shared by your group is how do you prototype your solution? And a last question about what human resource you need to build a viable solution. So we'll try to just partially cover some of them. So for the specification, there is no one way you can do. There's as many ways as founders to specify your product. Here I give some example using an agile framework, and two tools can help you to do that. The first one is what we call a user story. Finally, user story is just a way to discuss with between the person that has a need, so you as a co-founder or your product manager, and the person that will develop it, so the developer or the tech person. And the user story is just a framework when you will try to imagine the user and to describe the need. So it's very simple, it's short, and the aim of the user story is more to create a discussion more than to specify it 10 page of your functionality, for example. So once you have a user story, maybe another question is how I try to make a coherent group of functionality in order to develop step by step my various functionality. So another tool that you can use is a story mapping tool. The story mapping tool is a way to organize your user story in a logical and chronological way. For example, if your user story was I need to log in, it's interesting to have all the various steps on your website through this story mapping. So you know that, for example, if the login is here, you have all the other functions that follow the customer journey, and you know that which functionality is very important for your MVP or not. So, and it's an exercise that you can do quite quickly and really help to have a coherent view about the whole journey that you can have. I've heard that about the project that was presented before. There are some projects that are about platform, so it's maybe a good way to identify the first features and to build your MVP. Then about prototyping. So prototyping could mean a lot of things. And I think people have a lot of views about what can be prototype. So what you can see on the screen are 5 different prototypes, but they are all prototypes. It's a way to demonstrate the value that you create regarding your product. It could be basic, sketch, or just paper prototypes, so something that is looks like real, animated prototype, or even a real MVP, a functional app. So all of this depends on the resource that you want to spend. The most important is to do it as fast as you can in order to have your assumption tested. The one that I really like is the first one, the sketch, the paper prototypes. Because when you present a paper prototype to a customer, he understands very quickly that you are still working on your product, and he very often he's willing to share his views, his experience, his journey. He will not be focus on a detail about the button or the color of, so it can help you to have some feedback about the whole journey. The other prototype as important, interesting as well, depending on what you want to test. And for each of the various prototypes, you have some tools to do it. For example, the animated prototype, you can use a Marvel, which is quite good, or InVision. For the wireframe, you can use a PPT, for example, it works, but there is some mock-up apps as well. And for the function app, we can see in a few seconds what we can do. Do you have any questions so far before going to the last part?
No, I have a question. Just how many more slides? I apologize. I know we're going a little early.
I'm short.
Perfect.
Okay. How many minutes do I have?
2 minutes.
2 minutes. Okay, 2 minutes.
Yep.
I do it in 2 minutes.
So
in 1 minute, the team. So to build your team, it depends really on the product. But here I take the assumption about if you want to build e-commerce or platform, you will need a certain rule. So I will not go into detail. Maybe what is more interesting is the resource. So you are different way to do it. The first answer is you. As a co-founder, you are very often considered as a Superman. So you do everything about your product, from the research you build and the techie part. Some of you have heard that was working maybe with some already existing software. So you don't need to build it. So you can very easily to have existing software, and you can test a hypothesis. For example, Shopify. You can also outsource. For example, if you have a clear view about the specification about your product, you can hire a developer for 1 day or 30 days, or in order to have some to build maybe quickly. Or you can do it in-house if you manage to find a co-founder that is a tech co-founder, for example, or designer. I think I'm short, so I will not go into the innovation framework. But there is some few interesting things about the double diamond design thinking approach. We help you in 1 week to really re-challenge your product. And this is more later on when you have your product that is have reached a market. The question could be how you keep an innovation mindset in your team, and you try to innovate. So there is some framework that help you to, for example, to dedicate a time when you can think about out of the box, and you try to improve your product, or even think about a new product that has nothing to do with a product that is aligned to your mission. Thank you very much. I think okay.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Dominique. It was really helpful. I think we've had some really, really good, both of you, really good high quality presentations. That's why I let the mentors go over tonight. I think we're all learning a lot. So thank you both. So last presentation, last but not least, I know we're at the end of our time here, but we'll have Amin do his presentation. And if you don't mind, stop sharing your screen.
Yeah.
Great, thanks. We'll have Amin.
Very big pressure on Amin. given
Yeah,
the
lots of pressure.
quality of the two first presentations. So,
So I have a presentation and I'm trying to share. Okay. So it's okay. You can see my screen now?
not yet.
Okay. I
It's
think
coming.
it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I reassure you, it will be a very short presentation comparing to the previous one. So I will speak about product management and product development, and maybe the difference between the two, and what we can see in companies, in the organization, and also how to adapt what we call a lean and agile mindset. So product management is more about the strategy, the vision of the product, and how to create a product roadmap. So how to prioritize the product increments and the product evolutions to optimize the business value that we are delivering, to assure the scalability, and how also to get a financial viability of your product by taking a real economic view. So this is done by the product management, and they try to answer to the following question: why we are developing that, what we are developing, and for who. So maybe a framework that could answer this question is Lean Startup by and it will answer the question how to do the right thing. So it's about doing the right thing. Then we have also what we call product development. And product development is more about defining the roadmap of the releases and optimizing the delivery. So what to develop, and the idea is generally to implement on cadence and to synchronize periodically with business to optimize the delivery pipe. So here we are more speaking about product development and product implementation, and it is just about the method. So how to do the thing right. So here it's about doing the right thing, and here it's about doing the thing right. Generally, we hire for the product manager, management of product manager, and for the product development and implementation, we will hire a whole team. So the product owner who will write the user stories, etc., and a scrum master who will guarantee the application of agile methodologies, and of course, developers and testers. So product management will be more about building your MVP, verify feasibility, viability, desirability, get quick users feedback, and continue the development by enriching your standard functional scope or by adapting it and pivoting. Product development will be how to refine your backlog, define your user stories, plan the sprint, what to develop during the following period, and then how to develop, test, and deploy what you are developing, doing a demo, demonstrate what you are doing to the product manager or to the business, and also to have a retrospective to adapt your methodology. So I think maybe you are familiar with the Scrum process, the agile methodology. So here you have a product owner who will define the user stories and define a product backlog. Then for example, each 2 weeks, he will try to define with the team a sprint planning meeting to planify what to do on the following period. It's a sprint is defined by 1 to 4 weeks. Okay, and you have a Scrum Master who will guarantee that we are in compliance with the Scrum process methodology. So we can also have what daily Scrum. Each day we try to inspect the progress of our implementation. And finally, we will have a sprint review and a sprint retrospective to see what we have already implemented during the last sprint, so the last 2 weeks or 4 weeks, and what's still to be done. So I have just one advice to give you. Avoid to be just a one customer-centric startup led by the needs of just your biggest customer. And this advice is available in the B2B context, because you can have just one customer who will impose you what to implement and how to adapt your adapt. And this is a big trap. And also it can be available in the B2C context. If you are, for example, just if you are just led by the needs of your biggest segment, your client segment. So it's obvious you have, and you should listen to your biggest customers and try to respond to their needs, but also try also to step back and to think about the needs of other prospects to have a global and a long-term product management strategy. Otherwise, you will be just led by your biggest customer. So avoid having one's nose to the grindstone. In French, avoid to have la tête dans le guidon. And I will just recommend you a few books. So The Product Samurai, a product manager's guide to continuous innovation. The Professional Product Owner, so leveraging Scrum as a competitive advantage. What Customer Wants. And the two others are about lean product management and development. So lean product process development and the lean product playbook. That's all, and thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you. Much shorter than the other questions, so thank you so much. So founders, if you guys have questions, please, if you don't mind stopping sharing your screen, Amina.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how to do it.
Great, thank you. So if you guys have questions, if you can just lift up the hand raise, would be easier, I think, for us to manage that way. If anyone has any questions, go ahead and lift up your hand. We can get started with questions. No questions? Yes, Anwar, perfect.
Trying to find the hand. Okay, so we're founders. Product management is how do you, I guess, how do you situate product management before you have a project? I feel like a lot of our work has been to hone down what the perfect product will be. So is this kind of like future proofing us, or is it, and then I hear lean is always having some kind of product available to be assessed by customers. In the spirit of having and working lean, give me a figure of like time management or like percentages of a solo entrepreneur's day that should be dedicated to these things. I'm not saying it's overwhelming. I'm just saying that there's a budget, there's budgetary, like I don't have a team. I am solo. So I'm pulling the thread of Superman. MVP seems to be very important. I feel like I should only be focused on building a product. How do I fit in project management after I'm I'm pretty sure I'm just developing a product right now.
Okay, maybe I will try to answer.
Please.
So generally, you start your startup so alone, and then you will try to hire, or you will try to work maybe with freelancers. So the idea is that you have to get your own vision of your product, why you need what to develop. You have to conceive your own product roadmap, and then after that you should keep in mind that you can a product is the life cycle of the product is very long, so you can have you can develop I will say you can develop an MVP, a first version of your product, then you will have to develop several evolution for your product. So a product you will develop the first version for example, during 6 months. Then you will have version 2 in 1 year, version 3 in the year after, etc. And you will, for each evolution, which consists in several new features asked by your customers, you will define a new project. So it's a new project for which you can hire people, you can hire freelancers, etc. And my advice is maybe to start first by recruiting also maybe trainee. In France we have the, I don't know how we say it in French, but it's des alternants people. So they are working partial time with you, and they are studying also in the same time at engineering school, for example.
Great answer. Thank you so much.
Great. Okay. Do we have another question? That would be Ahmed, please.
Okay. Hi. Can you hear me? Well, good evening. First of all, thank you. Thank you so much for the for all the mentors that presented tonight. I actually felt that the three presentations were really hands-on, practical, straightforward advices for us. So thank you very much for that. Quick question I have, and that's probably directed to Amin. You know, I do understand that lean is about, you know, process optimization and cutting the fat, having basically optimizing processes to basically, that's what it is about. And is that not incompatible with the stage we are in as, you know, founders who are, you know, looking at basically creating new products and going through iterations, and you know the path before us, it's not straightforward. We definitely need to go through different try-ins, techniques, and this and that. Is lean not incompatible to that? What would you say? I mean, you are muted.
Okay, so in project management or product management, generally when we try to optimize, we use agile we use agile to optimize the scope, and we use waterfall to optimize the timeline, and we use lean to optimize the budget. So lean is really adapted to founders. Why? Because when you, for example, try to implement your product using leaning startup, what you are doing is optimizing your budget, trying to pivoting quickly so that you can fit quickly with the market. So how to build a minimum valuable product with spending the less possible, and how to try to fit quickly to the market. So how to do that with a lean way. This is what we are trying to explain by lean startup or lean product management.
Perfect.
So
Okay.
I don't know it's clear if it is clear for you.
Perfect. Okay. I think Christian has his hand up while he's driving.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the presentation. To jump on Ahmed's questions, how do you define exactly what is your MVP? I mean, what stage should you develop and what should you not develop?
I think
And
Christian,
once you test this, does it mean that you haven't, simply that what you develop sucks and you were cut out? Asking how much should you develop your MVP? How do you define the right balance on it? Because if you get that, or you haven't, is it clear now?
Yeah, I think so. So the question is, how do you define your MVP? How much should you build out to do your MVP, right? I think that was the gist of the question.
Okay, maybe I can share some thought about that. Of course, the MVP is a minimum viable product. So one of the aim when you develop your MVP is to really have the smaller scope in order that you can test things, and at the same time you want that you bring enough value to the customer for two different points. I think the first one is to help you to gather whether the product fit a real need or not, and then to adjust. The second one is maybe if you plan to have an MVP and then go to see your investor and to say, hey, you see, I already have this traction and this is only an MVP. You would like to have, I would like to say, a more ambitious, a more bold MVP in order to show this kind of thing. But so it really depends on what you would like to measure as a KPI when you have done your MVP. But what is sure is preferable to split in a small step, in a small release, and the MVP is really the minimum. So when you think that if you take out one functionality, you think, okay, this really brings no value to my customer. Yeah, you know that maybe you're not far from your MVP.
Great, thank you. So I think we have maybe time for one or two more questions. I know we're behind. Joseph, please.
Yeah, sure. Okay. As we have been talking about marketplaces, what is your take about cutting corners and going to use an existing marketplace for our MVP, and then we can change the marketplace every 2 weeks or every month to a different one until we find what works best for us.
Okay. So your question is, how do you apply this lean startup mindset to a marketplace solution, which is time investing because you need to have both the sellers or buyers, so it maybe need time in order to pivot. Maybe it's my understanding of your question.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have I don't think there is one answer, but by MVP we can imagine prototypes as well. So when you do a prototype that is non-functional, but that help your buyer or seller already imagine what your solution could be, and you gather enough feedback for that, it's a way to do not consume too much time to build this solution that could be very costly, especially for marketplace. So one answer is to maybe do something that is not an MVP if you want to try some assumption. So even just animated screen of what could be your solution. Just another way, maybe when you mention marketplace, now I think there is more and more B2B because you are in a B2B sector. There's a lot of B2C marketplace. Recently, I help a company to develop a market in B2B in a partnership. So the partnership could be maybe a viable way to see whether it helps you to reduce the cost, or even to do SaaS solution. For example, Miracle, which is a SaaS editor in marketplace. Maybe it could be a way to see how they can do it in a marque blanche. I don't know how to say it in English, but to see whether it's costly or not.
Thank you.
Perfect. Great. I don't think, did Isis raise her hand again? Is that your hand, Isis, for the last question?
Yes, hi.
Yep, perfect. Last question.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all three presentations that are very enlightening. Dominique, I was wondering, as you have experience in retail, is there any highlight of information that you'd like to share? Like, what's your best guiding piece of info in this field?
This is a very tough question. I think there is a lot of insight and a lot of things happening in this sector. So I think it's a turning point as well for this industry, and some issues and some challenges that we see very often with our customer is about omnichannel. We always talk about omnichannel, but very often there is a very rare company that's really reached to manage to provide a seamless experience when you are on whatever your device, and it's very, very hard. So omnichannel is a very key issue today. Yeah. With COVID, especially in France, when we see that for most of the brand, we used to go in shop to buy it. So now it's sure that e-commerce and click and collect, which is not new thing, a new trend, but certainly accelerating. So this is the second trend. You mentioned in your project all the machine learning, recommendation, AI apply to retail. It makes sense as well, because there's a lot of information that they have from the provider, from the customer. So it's an issue as well to build a strong data lake, even in their own company. So if they have some startup that can help them to better analyze their own data, or help them to build a solid data lake, is a real challenge as well. But I guess there's a lot of other challenges, just some few of them that I have in mind.
Great, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, everyone. That wraps up this evening's session. Thank you to all of our mentors. Thank you for all of the founders who came. Thank you to all the parents who are all going out of town and driving, Maxime and Claire and Christian, who made it a point to join us tonight, even with the kind of family travel. So thank you all. For everyone, what we do after these sessions, we all jump on AirMeet. It's essentially like going to the bar. And so if you have 5 minutes to just click on that link, you can essentially sit around a table and have a chance to kind of speak a little more individually with our founders. The other thing you can do is set up office hours. It sounds like Melanie has done it. This is her second time here. And so and I think Amin may have as well. And so for Dominique as well, there is on the platform for Founders Institute, you can set up office hours, and they're just 15-minute chunks. All of our founders are very used to this. We set up 15-minute meetings, and they essentially come with a very targeted, specific question, and we go through that. So if you're free and you can set up office hours, we'd love to have you. If you're able to join us for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and grab a quick drink, on the Air Meet, please do. I posted it here in the link. So please copy it. And if you can join us now, the founders will join us. Thank you, everyone. Next week, you guys know it's a big night. We'll put any information on the Slack channel, but it'll be like we did last time. You'll be split up in 2 groups, 3 mentors each evaluating your pitch. So please be perfect. Please practice. If you have to practice 10, 15 times. We've seen so much progress tonight. So thank you for Joseph and for Isis and for Amelia. You guys you can look at your YouTube videos and see how far you've come, and you could see it in the faces of your colleagues as you guys presented. You guys have done great work. So congratulations, keep it up. Please do more work for next week, and please make sure that you guys are doing a 3-minute pitch. That's what we want to see. No more, no less. So thank you. See you guys.
Maybe one last thing for next week is that we want to give you, or to give some of you, if you want to do it in French, you can do that in French, because you know that, I mean, we know that you might first meet some French investors. So obviously it might be a good idea to practice French as well. Just one thing for the organization, let us know before, if you could let us know by Monday night, so we would split the groups, but I'll put a quick message on Slack for this.
Yeah, and don't feel any pressure. If you all are also, the other thing is that if you have been doing it in English and you're happy with that as well, please feel like you can, and or you can switch to the French. And for the English speakers that are here, don't feel like you have to perform in French. So please, so great. So thank you, everyone. You guys are doing great work. I'm really I'm super proud, right? We all are. So thank you. You guys are doing a great job.
Good
Have a
evening,
good
everyone.
night.
Bye-bye.
Thanks again, the
Bye.
mentors. Huh?
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
mentors. Bye.
Bye.